This is the truth about Klipsch and what nobody is talking about. I've done a bunch of videos on companies and their histories, and they all had one thing in common. And guess what? Klipsch doesn't. We're going to talk about Klipsch's history, their impact on the hi-fi world, some of their most famous speakers. We're going to talk about that big surprise that makes them different from everyone else. It was right under our noses the whole time. It all started with Paul Wilbur Klipsch. He was born on March 9th, 1904 in Elkhart, Indiana. He was an only child, and his dad was a mechanical engineer instructor at Purdue. They moved to Silver City, New Mexico, where his father passed away when Paul was only 12. So Paul and his mom moved to El Paso, Texas. And by 1919, when Paul was only 15, he built a radio receiver. A whole year before the first commercial broadcast. After high school in El Paso, he went and studied engineering at what is now New Mexico State University. He went to work for General Electric. Some say he was designing radios for RCA. And in 1928, he traveled to Chile to work on electric locomotives. However, even there, his passion for sound and stuff never left him. He was tinkering with horn speakers versus regular speakers. And on a stop back through El Paso, he met his wife. Now, this is a cool story, but it can't be verified. Supposedly, he married Belle on his way back to Chile at sea, and the captain of the ship was the one that officiated the ceremony. And being abroad is where Paul really discovered the massive efficiency differences between horn speakers and regular speakers. But when he was overseas, that was just the beginning. Because back in the US, Paul's obsession would collide with education and an unforgettable comment from a classmate that would shape his future forever. In 1931, Paul moved back to the States, enrolled at Stanford, of course he did, and studied electrical engineering. And then he spent 7 years working as a geophysicist in the oil and gas industry. In his spare time, he became obsessed with that one comment from one classmate. That comment was, "Speakers sound better in a corner." And he had to find out if that was true. But in 1945, he went into the Army as a second lieutenant, and he ended up at the Southwest Proving Grounds in Hope, Arkansas. By day, he tested ballistics and artillery shells, but by night, well, he was obsessed with bringing live music sound to your living room. After the Army, Paul stayed in Hope, Arkansas for the rest of his life, and he rented a small tin shed behind a dry cleaner. In 1945, he patented what later would become the Klipschorn. In 1946, he officially registered Klipsch and Associates. And, well, they worked out of that same tin shed. And stuff's still made out of Hope, Arkansas to this day. He wasn't just creating any other speaker in that tin shed. What he made was revelatory. 3 things were made possible with the folded horn design. 1, super loud. 2, super efficient. 3, super low distortion. And in 1948, they moved into a real factory. It was the old telephone exchange building at the Southwest Proving Grounds. Couldn't get away from his Army roots. There he hired his first employee, Lloyd McKellen, and that site is now the Klipsch Museum. Early sales were slow. In the 50s, though, he started experimenting with other designs, one of which would later become the Heresy, which was designed to be a center speaker for the Klipsch horns. But people loved it, so they ended up making them in pairs. The Heresy. What's really cool is that Klipsch products really were spread by word of mouth, not any type of marketing campaigns. Paul Klipsch described himself as a lunatic maverick, and he had no problem at poking fun at the audio industry. He even wore a button, a BS button, which you can still buy at the Klipsch Museum if you want. Whenever he would hear something that was, well, BS, he'd pull out that button. It started because he got incensed at what a hi-fi magazine called a breakthrough. He wasn't just building speakers, he was building a reputation, and that reputation would pretty much shape Klipsch's identity. Well, forever. All started with the Klipsch horns in 1946. Still in production today, and it's the longest running speaker in history. You can still buy them. Nearly 80 years old next year. The Heresy in 1957, which you can still buy. today. Cornwall in 1959. Corner plus wall. Cornwall. La Scala in 1963, and it was created as a PA speaker for political rallies. It even traveled with Winthrop Rockefeller. In 1971, the Bell La Scala was released, which was a tribute to his wife. Discontinued in 2005, it's highly sought after by collectors. Bell later passed away in 1976 at age 70. The same year, Paul married Valerie. She was 15 years younger. And Valerie was really the curator of the museum, preserving all of his work and legacy. But in 1985, they made something really cool. The Forte, slimmer cabinets and living room friendly. And the Forte quickly became one of Klipsch's most popular speakers. And together, all of these speakers formed the Heritage series. And the Heritage was not just a speaker lineup, it was kind of the DNA of Klipsch itself. And that legacy continues today. Paul was getting awards all the way back in the beginning. In 1966, he received the NMSU Alumni Award, New Mexico State University. In 81, he received an honorary doctorate degree from New Mexico State University. And he got a whole department named after him, the electrical engineering and the computer engineering departments at New Mexico State University. He also got a lecture hall and a museum where you can go, they have a listing room and you can go compare a bunch of speakers there. How cool is that? However, he just wasn't recognized at universities. As a philanthropist, Paul was very generous. He gave ideas and inventions to the Arkansas Ballet, to Arkansas State University, and the Arkansas Symphony Orchestra. Therefore, Paul wasn't just shaping the world of hi-fi, he was shaping culture and education alike, especially in New Mexico and Arkansas. And his reputation as a legend only grew stronger. In the 80s and 90s, Klipsch went mainstream. KG series was released, which later became the Reference series. A lot more affordable and sold at big box stores. And something else happened at this time that really put Klipsch in a lot of living rooms, the home theater boom. Because Klipsch speakers were so efficient, they paired really well with home theater systems. But in the mid-80s, Paul was in his 80s and he had no children. And the question of who would carry on his legacy, who would lead the company after, well, Paul wasn't around, was looming large. And in 1989, at age 85, Paul made his move. He sold it to his cousins, Fred and Judy Klipsch. Manufacturing stayed in Hope, Arkansas. Business operations moved to Indianapolis. And the company was renamed Klipsch Inc. But Klipsch went even more mainstream. Klipsch Pro Media. You probably have one of those in your house right now. They were computer speakers. So they were at the front end of the home theater boom, and they were at the, well, front end of computer speaker boom. So not only did they have one foot in tradition, but they had the other foot firmly placed in digital future stuff. And apparently Fred had this thing figured out because they expanded aggressively. They acquired Yamo, Mirage, Energy. They weren't just a niche hi-fi maker, they were now a global audio company. They also launched an iPod dock. In 2009, the S4i arrived, and it was the first third-party headset with full iPhone controls. And for a lot of younger people, this was their first experience with anything to do with hi-fi. They weren't just chasing the old school audiophiles, they weren't just chasing the home theater people, they were also chasing the new generation. 2010s, they were making soundbars, doing stadium installs, licensing the name to movie theaters. They were doing all right. And because of this, in 2011, they went public. Well, they didn't go, but AudioVox bought them, which later became Vox, and it's not Vox anymore. Klipsch was probably the most important brand in AudioVox's portfolio. Some fans, of course, thought it was watered down after the acquisition, but the move solidified Klipsch's position in big box stores like Best Buy, Costco, and Vox kind of left Klipsch alone. today, Klipsch is still retro and modern. Despite all of the changes, despite the acquisition, those heritage speakers are still made in Hope, Arkansas. They still make lifestyle speakers for TVs and desks. And Paul Klipsch, deservedly so, received a whole bunch of honors. He was inducted into the Audio Hall of Fame in 1993, the Engineering and Science Hall of Fame in 1997. They're also in, well, vehicles. Ram trucks have Klipsch speakers in them. They did collabs with McLaren Racing, sponsored the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2021, and very interesting, in 2010, they were the official headphone of the World Series of Poker. And after all of the success, what's that one thing, that one surprise that Klipsch did differently from every other hi-fi manufacturer? They didn't have any drama. Their identity never really changed. They're still making the same speakers for 80 years almost, and successfully transitioned into computers, into headphones, sound bars, while still maintaining that heritage brand, that heritage ethos. From a shed in Arkansas to a global hi-fi giant, Paul Klipsch accumulated 12 patents in acoustics, 8 in geophysics, 3 in ballistics, but the numbers only tell part of the story. There's never been anyone like Paul Klipsch. There's never been a company like Klipsch. He was loved by his employees, never took himself too seriously, loved by universities, communities, states. He was undeniably impactful. And it sounds to me like he did it all the right way. And today, Klipsch has a cult-like following for the heritage speakers. I did a poll on YouTube, and Klipsch was far and away the most recognized brand when it came to speakers. And a lot of audiophiles don't like them. And I think if Paul was sitting in this room right now, he would say, good. I wanted to create something unique, something special, something that other people weren't doing. And that's exactly what he did, with zero drama. And with Klipsch today looking very similar to what it looked like back then. And I don't know any other company that can say that. Kind of amazing if you think about it. Klipsch's story is super simple. No scandal, no chaos, horns, innovation, kindness, and a hi-fi legacy that is truly unique. Making this video makes me want to go out and buy some Klipsch speakers. The Fortes are awesome. If you like this video, but you want a video with a bunch of scandal and chaos, check out my video I made about, well, monster cable. I'll put another one up here that you might find interesting too. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to support the channel, check out the link in the description. Bunch of cool products, like my awesome cassette wallet that it does not have a patent on it.